The story about my life. This is a story about me. My real name is not Madia. But for the purpose of this story, I will call myself Madia. This was the name my father always called me, and may his soul rest in peace. When I was in my mother's belly, my parents did not expect to have another child. The origins of my parents are from Morocco, but they did not practice Islam in the same way that most Moroccan people do. Now, to continue with the story of my life after my parents having 3 boys. They had me, that first daughter and last child. I had a beautiful childhood filled with lovely memories. Unfortunately, when I turned 7, my parents began to argue frequently, and their constant fighting led them to decide to separate. This decision made life very hard for us children. My oldest brother stepped in as a father figure. My other brother never let go of his side, and my youngest brother was trying to figure out his own path. As the only girl, I longed for the love and attention of my daddy. Years passed and things began to settle. But when I was almost 12, my oldest brother was involved in a car accident and tragically passed away. He was only 20 years old. He was not just my brother, but my best friend, my father figure. I couldn't imagine a life without him. My world felt shattered. I had lost my dad, and now my second dad, my best friend. The pain was unbearable, and I didn't know how to move forward with my life. After many sad days and feeling like the world was a worthless place, I still tried to make something of my life. Everyone was living their own way. My mum had a new partner and spent a lot of time out and about, just like my 2 other brothers. My middle brother couldn't handle living in the same house anymore, so he left to live on his own. My younger brother started making poor choices with his life. As for me, I was simply searching for love, as that was what I missed the most. My dad and my brother had always been so loving towards me, calling me beautiful names like the princess of my life, and I longed for that affection. When I was 16, I met a white girl who had embraced Islam. She was knowledgeable about the Quran, could read Arabic fluently, and had a deep understanding of Allah and the life of Prophet Muhammad. I admired her dedication to her faith, but at the same time it made me feel embarrassed. I realized how little I knew about my own religion. While she spoke with confidence about the teachings of Islam, I only knew bits and pieces. It felt like a stark contrast, and I couldn't help but feel a sense of shame for not knowing more. Determined to change that, I started attending the mosque regularly. I wanted to learn more about Islam, not only to feel less embarrassed, but also to connect with my faith in a deeper way, and to show her and myself that I, too, could understand and embrace the teachings of Islam. I was attending college and working part-time at a supermarket when, on my 17th birthday, after learning more about Islam, I decided to wear a headscarf. This decision marked a significant change in my life. It wasn't easy. My mother didn't appreciate the change in my appearance, and my job told me that I would have to leave if I continued wearing the headscarf. I couldn't believe how difficult my life was becoming. The pressure was overwhelming, and I felt like I wasn't able to truly be myself. So, I decided to get married and leave my home, hoping to find a place where I could be who I wanted to be. In my religion, I finally found peace and love. But I realized I still couldn't fully practice my faith in the way I wanted. When I was almost 19, I married a very handsome young man who was 5 years older than me. However, he wasn't legally in the country where I was living, and he struggled to find stable work. This meant that, while pregnant, I had to work to support us. We lived separately. He stayed with his friends, and I lived with my mother. When my mother found out I was pregnant, she insisted that I divorce him because he wasn't providing for me. Despite the pressure, I didn't divorce him, and after giving birth to my first child, I became pregnant again almost immediately. When my mother found out that I wasn't following her wishes and was instead getting pregnant again, she kicked me out of her house. Being homeless, pregnant, and with a baby only a few months old was one of the most difficult experiences of my life. My husband was in jail, and I had nowhere to go. I felt so lost and sad, unable to believe that I was going through such a tough time. I had a few friends, but none of them could take me in. They all had their reasons and still lived with their parents. Others were married, and as a Muslim woman, it wasn't considered appropriate to stay in a house with men. Not knowing what to do, I would walk late at night, out in the dark, with my baby and my belly, questioning how I was going to make it through life, and asking Allah for help. Then, a brother who knew my husband found me and took me in. He cared for me for months, and I will never forget his kindness. Even though I truly appreciated everything he did for me, I didn't like this lifestyle. I wanted to settle down, but I couldn't because I was still married and pregnant. Eventually, I called my mother, who had been very worried since she hadn't heard from me in months. She was so happy to hear from me and asked me to come back. I was overjoyed with this offer, as I also wanted to return. Once I was back, my mother helped me find a house and a way to earn an income. After giving birth, I went to my husband's home country to finalize my divorce and to introduce his second child. Since I was living on government support, I was only allowed to stay on holiday for up to 3 weeks. My oldest child was a bit of a handful, so I asked my ex to care for him for a little while, as the baby was still nursing. My ex and his mother agreed to look after the oldest child. But when I left, they secretly changed his passport and clothes, and kept him with them despite my having bought 2 tickets, one for me and one for my child. With no income and fearful of how I would manage, I left, all the while thinking about how to get my child back. After returning to the country where I was born and raised, I met a new man and fell in love. He gave me hope that I might be able to get my child back, as I didn't know anything about my son's whereabouts. My ex-husband had changed his phone number, and I never knew the address he was living at since I was always picked up and dropped off during visits. Not knowing whether my child was safe or living a good life was a heavy burden. But I had to carry on for the sake of my other child. This new relationship brought me hope and a sense of love again. Before long, we had a child together. But unfortunately, he turned out to be someone I could not rely on. He made life choices that no mother could accept. And to finish it, he cheated on me with my best friend at that time. The betrayal and what he did cut deep. After I went to the police, he was arrested and sent to jail. Now me facing another divorce. I couldn't believe I was going through this all over again. I was now a single mother of 2 children, while still thinking about my second child, who I hadn't seen or heard from in over 2 years. Despite everything, I kept my head up and prayed for Allah's guidance. Then one day I received an unexpected call from my ex-husband. After 2.5 years of keeping our child, he told me he needed me to take him back because he was getting married and his new wife didn't want the child. I couldn't believe it. My prayers had been answered. I was so grateful to Allah for returning my child to me. Without hesitation, I made arrangements and went to pick him up at the airport. He traveled alone, with the help of the airline staff. Seeing him again after all that time was surreal. The baby who had been taken from me at just 6 months old was now a big 3-year-old child. When I saw him, I wanted to hug and kiss him. But he cried and called out, "Where is my mummy? Where is my mummy?" Again, but in a sad way. He meant his grandmother, the woman who had raised him since he was taken from me. He didn't know me at all. He had never seen a picture of me. And because his father had completely cut off contact, I was a stranger to him. In that moment, I held back my emotions and played the role of an Annie, trying to comfort him and gently explain that he would come to live with me and that his life would change. It wasn't easy, especially with the language barrier, but I was determined to rebuild the bond between us and help him adjust to this new chapter in his life.